Some motorcycles aren't just built to go fast. They're built to test the rider holding the throttle. They shake your confidence, punish mistakes, and reward bravery with a rush you can't forget. These weren't just quick. They were unpredictable, unforgiving, and thrilling in equal measure. These are the 18 fastest and most dangerous motorcycles ever built. Number 18, Kawasaki H2 Mach 4 750. Some motorcycles earn nicknames as a badge of honor and others as a warning. The Kawasaki H2 Mach 4 750 fell into the second category. Riders knew it as the Widowmaker, and for good reason. It was a machine that didn't just flirt with danger, it invited it to sit in the passenger seat. At the heart of the H2 was a two-stroke inline triple engine displacing 743 cubic centimeters. This wasn't a polite, gradual kind of power delivery. It came alive with a violent rush in the mid-range, slamming down, roughly 57 pound-feet of torque and close to 74 horsepower to the rear wheel. Twist the throttle too hard, and the front wheel had a habit of lifting skyward before you could think twice. That savage acceleration was both the bike's biggest draw and its greatest threat. On paper, a top speed brushing past 120 miles per hour was impressive for the early 1970s. In reality, getting there often meant wrestling with a chassis that was barely up to the task. The steel frame was light but flexed under pressure, and the suspension, though adequate for cruising, could turn unpredictable when cornering hard at high speed. Combine that with drum brakes that faded quickly, and you had a machine that demanded every ounce of your focus. What made the H2 Mach 4 750 truly dangerous was how easily it could catch riders off guard. At lower revs, it felt manageable, even docile. Then, the power band hit, and everything changed in an instant. In the hands of an experienced rider, it was thrilling. In the hands of someone careless, it was a ticket to trouble. The Kawasaki H2 Mach 4 750 wasn't about refinement or composure. It was about raw, unfiltered speed, wrapped in a package that didn't forgive mistakes. Number 17, Kawasaki H1 Mach 3 500. Some bikes from the 70s were quick, others were lively, but this one felt like it was trying to outrun its own shadow. The Kawasaki H1 Mach 3 500 didn't bother with subtlety. It was built to be fast, and it wasn't shy about letting you know. The core of the Mach 3 was a two-stroke inline triple displacing 499 cubic centimeters. On paper, it made roughly 60 horsepower and about 42 pound-feet of torque, but numbers don't capture how abruptly that power showed up. Below the mid-range, it was almost civil. Then, without much warning, the engine snapped to life, the exhaust note sharpened, and the bike lunged forward like it had been set free from a leash. That rush was the reason it could run a quarter mile in the low 13-second range and brush past 124 miles per hour at the top end. For its size and weight, those figures were staggering in the early 1970s. But speed was only half the story. The lightweight steel frame flexed when pushed, the suspension didn't always keep up, and the drum brakes faded quickly under repeated hard stops. At high speed, that combination demanded steady hands and a quick thinking. The weight distribution only added to the challenge. Crack the throttle too hard in the lower gears, and the front wheel would lift without asking, leaving the rider to manage the sudden shift. Inexperienced hands often found themselves chasing the bike rather than guiding it. Still, for those who knew how to handle it, the Mach 3 delivered one of the most electrifying rides of its era. It was quick, aggressive, and willing to test your reflexes every time you twisted the grip. The Kawasaki H1 Mach 3 500 was pure 70s performance distilled into a machine that could thrill or punish in equal measure, and that razor-thin line between the two is exactly what made it unforgettable. Number 16, Suzuki TL 1000S. It didn't take long for riders to realize the Suzuki TL 1000S was a very different kind of sport bike. The first twist of the throttle told you it had the pace to run with the best, but the way it handled that speed was where things got complicated. At its core was a liquid-cooled 90-degree V-twin, displacing 996 cubic centimeters. It produced about 125 horsepower at 8,500 RPM and 76 pound-feet of torque at 8,000 RPM. That meant strong pull from low revs and a hard charge through the mid-range, making it easy to carry speed without having to keep the needle near redline. On a straight stretch, the TL delivered clean, rapid acceleration. It could clear a quarter mile in just over 10 seconds and top out around 160 miles per hour. The gearbox ratios kept the engine in its sweet spot, and the throttle response was immediate without feeling abrupt. That made it easy to see why riders pushed it hard. The challenges came when the road stopped being straight. Suzuki used a rotary rear damper instead of a conventional shock, and under sustained hard riding, it generated heat that affected damping performance. Combined with a light front end and, in early models, no steering damper, the bike could feel unsettled at high speed through corners. Inexperienced riders often found themselves adjusting mid-bend, which was rarely ideal. Even so, the Suzuki TL1000S was far from unmanageable. Those who adapted to its quirks learned to keep their inputs smooth, stay ahead of the suspension, and use the broad torque curve to their advantage. When ridden with that mindset, it was quick, rewarding, and distinct from anything else in its class. If you think these machines are wild, just wait until you see what's coming up. The speeds get crazier, and the risks get real. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned. You won't want to miss the next ones. Number 15. Suzuki RG 500 Gamma. Few street bikes ever carried the soul of a Grand Prix machine in a package you could ride home, yet that's exactly what the Suzuki RG 500 Gamma did. From the moment the engine roared to life, it sounded and felt like you were mounting a stripped-down track bike made for chaos. Under the fairing sat a liquid-cooled, two-stroke square-four engine displacing just under 500 cubic centimeters. The thin power band meant it delivered power in surges, making every twist of the throttle a calculated commitment. It was famously rev-happy and demanded precision to keep it working its best. On opening, the Gamma launched forward with a ferocity few 500cc street bikes could match. With a top speed approaching 125 miles per hour, an acceleration that sucked you into the seat, it exposed how street-ready versions could still feel brutally race-bred. Each gear shift pulled quickly, and the transitions from torque dips to power surges kept you alert. No half measures allowed. That power delivery was both intoxicating and unforgiving. Unlike smoother four-strokes, the Gamma's rush came fast and faded just as quickly. It required constant attention, especially in corner exits. The light frame and narrow tires made it flickable, but under you it was always alive, never settling. Handling added another layer to the challenge. The suspension was firm and direct to mirror its track DNA, and the stubby wheelbase made it sharply responsive. Anything rough or uneven could unsettle the chassis in an instant, meaning the rider had to stay ahead of the bike's intentions, ready to redirect even before it started twitching. Despite those traits, precise riders found the RG 500 Gamma thrillingly rewarding. Every ride became a masterclass in control and timing. Misjudge a shift or throttle tip, and you'd remember it fast, usually with a raised heartbeat. The Suzuki RG 500 Gamma was raw, honest, and fundamentally unforgiving. But for those who matched its pace and rhythm, it was a rider's tool, not a toy. Number 14. Kawasaki Ninja ZX-12R. There's a certain kind of speed that lands like a sonic punch, and the Kawasaki Ninja ZX-12R hit with just that. It pulled hard from the first twist, then drilled on with ruthless consistency, making you feel its intent long before the speedo caught up. At its heart was a four-stroke, liquid-cooled, inline-four engine, displacing 1,199 cubic centimeters. Kawasaki claimed about 178 horsepower at 10,500 RPM and roughly 99 pound-feet of torque at 7,500 RPM. That's the kind of grunt that turns throttle control from a suggestion into a requirement. From a standstill, it didn't just leap, it lunged. The ZX-12R slashed the quarter mile in under 10 seconds, and with ram air feeding boost at speed, it nudged an electronically limited top speed of around 188 miles per hour. You felt that rush in your chest before you saw it in the numbers. The bike didn't just haul, it stayed firm doing it. Kawasaki's aluminum monocoque chassis was stiff and narrow, giving stability at speed. The inverted front forks and unitrack rear suspension soaked up rush without skimming off confidence. Yet with all that stability came heft. At around 463 pounds dry, it demanded commitment to ride hard. And brakes, dual 320mm discs with 6-piston calipers up front, slowed the beast as surely as the engine shoved forward. What made it dangerous wasn't a single flaw. It was how complete it felt while still being intense. The Kawasaki Ninja ZX-12R wasn't about subtle thrills. It delivered pure, focused velocity with stability that let you push, edge after edge. Number 13. Suzuki GSX 1300R Hayabusa. You know a motorcycle is serious when you don't feel speed, you feel pressure. The Suzuki GSX 1300R Hayabusa started that feeling the moment you lifted the visor. Under its sculpted shell lived a liquid-cooled inline-4 engine, displacing 1,298 cubic centimeters. It claimed about 173 horsepower at 9,800 RPM and roughly 102 pound-feet of torque at 7,000 RPM. That output made it not just quick but relentless, capable of hauling you toward triple digits before your brain caught up. In practice, it didn't just go fast, it sprinted. Quarter-mile times hovered around 10.4 seconds, and tested top speeds pushed close to 190 miles per hour. The acceleration felt less like acceleration and more like being pulled into tomorrow. That relentless rush came with a cost. The bike's heavy weight and long wheelbase made it feel composed on the highway, but it also demanded clean lines through corners. The tight fairing and ram air system kept power flowing, yet the weight meant tight turns. Felt more like precision slides than firm grips. It was stable, but only if you committed ahead of time. Still, strong riders turned those traits into advantages. Its straight-line stability and massive mid-range punch made it hard to lose control, provided you respected the speed. The Hayabusa handed back confidence, but only once you'd earned it. Number 12. Yamaha VMAX. Some bikes make their presence known through looks. The Yamaha VMAX made it known the moment you twisted the throttle. It was less about appearance and more about the surge of force that followed, a rush that few motorcycles could match. At its center was a liquid-cooled V4 engine, displacing 1,197 cubic centimeters. Output hovered around 120 horsepower, with 83 pound-feet of torque, numbers that only told part of the story. The real character came from how early that torque arrived, delivering instant acceleration that pulled hard from low revs and kept going without hesitation. The VMAX could cover a quarter mile in roughly 10.5 seconds, a time that put it in the company of serious superbikes. But unlike a razor-sharp sport machine, this wasn't about precision lines or corner speed. It was about sheer, straight-line shove. The engine's V-boost system opened additional intake pathways at higher revs, turning the second half of the tach into a full throttle experience that came on fast. That same intensity made it a challenge to handle. The chassis and suspension on early models weren't built for aggressive cornering, and the bike carried its weight in a way that could unsettle it if the road turned rough. The frame flexed under hard acceleration, and braking demanded space. Dual discs up front did the job, but you felt every bit of the momentum you were trying to slow. For experienced riders, the VMAX was pure exhilaration. It rewarded throttle discipline and punished overconfidence, making it as much about control as speed. For less prepared riders, the combination of instant torque and heavy weight could turn a quick ride into a fight to keep it straight. The Yamaha VMAX was never about finesse. It was a muscle bike through and through, delivering raw power with no filter and leaving the rest up to whoever had the nerve to hold it wide open. Number 11. Bimota V-Do 500. When ambition meets imperfection, the result can be unforgettable in the worst way. The Bimota V-Do 500 is proof of that. A bike that married racing dreams with mechanical nightmares in one compact, volatile package. At its heart was a liquid-cooled, two-stroke, 90-degree V-twin engine, displacing 499 cubic centimeters. Bimota claimed it made around 105 horsepower, with torque roughly 86 pound-feet. Those numbers promised GP-style punch, especially when wrapped in a feather-light frame, just over 320 pounds dry, built from carbon and aluminum. Strike the starter and you felt that promise immediately. The power band didn't ramp up. It snapped into being around 7,500 RPM, sending the chassis lunging forward with brutal urgency. In dedicated hands, that rush would have been exhilarating. But on regular roads, its unpredictable delivery made it an equal parts fling and fray of nerves. Part of the danger came from how brutally, narrowly that power arrived. Below 5,000 RPM, it hesitated. Then once the engine hit the right rev bucket, it grabbed hard, and many riders found themselves lugging an engine that either refused to pull or yanked them off balance. The experimental fuel injection system was the main culprit, refusing to play nice at low revs and spitting rough transitions when closed throttle conditions came into play. Those issues weren't just speed bumps, they were warning signs. Even routine starts or throttle transitions could be jerky and unpredictable, making it hard to trust the way the bike behaved. Combined with a sharply responsive frame and track-level suspension, that made the V-Do feel like it could turn on the rider as easily as it turned corners. In search of solutions, Bimota later refitted some with carburetors, improving usability but failing to erase its reputation. The V-Do remained a finicky, fragile beast. It revealed what happens when raw aspiration outpaces engineering realities. The Bimota V-Do 500 was thrilling when it worked, but more often than not, it reminded you that unforgiving performance is a double-edged sword. Number 10. Honda CBR 900RR Fireblade. You don't need to look tactical to make riders nervous. This bike did that with its heart alone. The Honda CBR 900RR Fireblade sliced through expectations by blending superbike pace with a 600 class weight, and it still demanded respect the moment you gripped the bars. Power came from a liquid-cooled inline-4 engine displacing 929 cubic centimeters. It produced around 152 horsepower at 10,750 RPM and approximately 76 pound-feet of torque at 9,000 RPM. From a stop, it didn't surge so much as spring. The Fireblade could cover a quarter mile in just under 11 seconds and reach a top speed near 176 miles per hour. What impressed wasn't the raw figures, it was how it carried authority through every gear and straight-line scenario. That composure was born from Honda's obsession with weight. At around 375 pounds dry, it was lighter than most leader-class rivals, giving it a crisp, immediate feel on the move. The frame and suspension setup rewarded precise input. The bike flicked into corners with assurance and returned power mid-exit with a clean, committed punch. There wasn't room for sloppy riding or half measures, but that same sharpness demanded attention. Because it felt so eager, it exposed hesitation harshly. A timid throttle caused hesitation under power, and trust paid dividends. Inched the grip back, and the bike returned aggression tenfold. The balance between control and drive was narrow and real. In the right hands, the Fireblade delivered relentless speed, corner agility, and razor-sharp responses, and it did so without fuss or frills. For riders who respected its edge, it rewarded with precision and pace that felt earned. Number 9. Honda CR 500R. You get the sense something serious is coming the moment you clutch that rear brake, only because you're bracing for what's next. The Honda CR 500R didn't just deliver power, it delivered a kick that reminded every rider who was really in charge. At its core was an air-cooled, two-stroke, single-cylinder engine, displacing 491.4 cubic centimeters. Official figures suggest it made around 60 horsepower, making it one of the most potent motocross engines of its day. But the headline numbers don't convey how brutally that power hit. One moment you're steady, the next you're strapped to a spring snapping forward. It wasn't about top speed, it was about surprise. The CR 500R launched with nearly reckless intent. In race conditions, it outpaced its rivals not by finesse, but by wearing them down with immediate jerk-on power and relentless torque. Its power band wasn't gradual, but a step function surge that demanded throttle precision at every twist. This kind of power made it a beast to handle. The frame and suspension worked hard, especially off the start line. Suspension would pack quickly in stretches of rutted terrain, and smooth control became a luxury. One moment, you're managing motion. The next, you're compensating a backslide, whether you asked for it or not. Still, its physicality didn't make it reckless. It made it responsive, but only in the hands of focused riders. The CR 500R was forgiving in its own way, teaching you timing faster than you thought you needed to learn it. Riders who adapted could manage its violent torque and use its momentum to punish competitors off corners. The Honda CR 500R was designed for those who respected speed's bite and could translate raw acceleration into control, because on this bike, survival came from being sharper than the machine pushing you. Number 8. Kawasaki KX500. There's a way some bikes feel like they want to eat terrain, and the Kawasaki KX500 wore that appetite on its sleeve. From its first twist, it didn't just ask for aggression, it demanded it. Under the green plastic shroud lived a liquid-cooled, two-stroke, single-cylinder engine, displacing 499 cubic centimeters. It churned out roughly 66 horsepower at 7,000 RPM and about 48 pound-feet of torque at 6,000 RPM. In a package weighing just over 220 pounds dry, that power-to-weight ratio was more missile than motocross machine. That meant explosive launches off the gate and a mid-range that felt like a shove to the spine. The KX500 didn't tease its performance. It served it in measurable jolts. On the track, it pulled through whoops and straightaways with ruthless intent. And in desert racing, Few bikes could hold a candle to its raw punch. But that same appetite came with consequences. At full tilt, the chassis needed holding immaculate lines. The frame flexed under hard landings, and the suspension, though adjustable, could turn sharp chatter into twitch. Braking was immediate, but the lightweight front end was easy to lock up, especially when momentum was high. The Kawasaki KX500 wasn't about moderation. It was about mastering force. It was raw, bruising, demanding, but when you rode it right, it was as close to flying as ground allowed. Number 7. Aprilia RS250. You know a bike is fiercely focused when the fun starts at 10,000 revs, and the Aprilia RS250 wasn't shy about announcing that. Twist the throttle and you felt the surge from a thin, race-tuned power band that rewarded precision and punished hesitation. Under its sleek fairing lived a